Happy Wednesday to everybody. It's time for Troop Talk Live. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Aaron, but as you can see, we've got a lot of cool, honored guests on the show with us today. Let's start off with the young woman in the lower left corner of your screen. You guys might recognize Kayleen. She's been on a few shows with us. She is a valued national volunteer on the national level. Today, she's wearing the hat of chair of the Scouts BSA National Youth Council. Kayleen, do you read us?
I do. Good to see you, Aaron.
It's great to see you as well. And we are joined by three youth members of the National Youth Council. Actually, they just wrapped up their term with the National Youth Council. Please welcome to the show Amoog, Chloe, and Nico. Thank you three for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having us here.
We're so happy to have you all. As you can see, a couple of folks are coming to us from camp right now. We're going to learn more about where they are and everything. The topic of the show today is the Scouts BSA National Youth Council. Kayleen is the person to really the expert on all this. So maybe, Kayleen, why don't you just give us an overall view of the National Youth Council. What are you guys all about? What do you do?
Yeah, you know that the Scouts BSA National Youth Council is all about centering Scout voices, right? The voices of our youth in their program. All of us adults out there need to remember that Scouts BSA is not a program for adults. It's a program for youth, right? And what I've learned on the council, this is, we've just completed our fourth cohort, and these young people are paying a lot of attention to what's happening in scouting. They're aware of the decisions that we're trying to make, the policies that might need updating, or the ways that we run our program that we might do differently. And just like our adults out there, our scouts have a ton of perspective about what's working and what's not working. And so the Youth Council was created to give youth from around the country a couple of opportunities. One, to spend some time and think together about how we make scouting better. And another, to have a legitimate and sincere way to channel their voices to the people that are setting policies so that youth can actually help to impact how we run our programs. And you're going to get to hear from Amoog and from Chloe and Nico today about how they've done that on this cohort of the Youth Council.
Yeah, awesome. It's really cool to have you guys there. Yeah, Kayleen, as a member of the publications team here at the National Council in Texas, where I'm based, one of the emails that I often get from folks is that, hey, you don't listen enough to youth. And I think it's a fair point, right? I think I totally get it. And the National Youth Council is a way to do that. It's a way to open up that doorway of communication. It's very, very exciting. And I think what we're, the main point of today's show is you are now accepting applications for the next cohort of the Scouts BSA National Youth Council. I want you to tell us about that, Kayleen. But before you do that, you look very, very campy today, very outdoorsy. Where are you?
I am on the Oregon coast. I am at a camp called Camp Baker. This is where the part of the reason I'm in scouting is because of this camp. This is where my husband went to camp as a youth. Stephen went here for years. And so we actually scout one council to the north, but we come here for a week every single summer and do voluntary staff service here at Camp Baker. So I've got the climbing tower and the trading post in the background today. Shout out to all of you who love Camp Baker.
Yeah, I'm really just seeing that. I have the itch to go run up that climbing tower and do the best I can to climb up.
Me too. I wish I could do this from up there.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Shout out to Massimo Troop 66 from Garden City. I don't know if Garden City, is that Kansas? I'm not sure, but welcome to the show. Glad you are joining us. Okay, so the application seat window is open right now. Is that right, Kayleen? What do the folks need to know about applying? Who's eligible to apply? What do we need to tell the folks about applying?
Yeah, let's tell them a little bit about that. Yep. I think that in order to apply to the Youth Council, and you can see on the screen where to go to find the application cycle, our scouts need to be currently a member of the Scouts BSA program. They need to be first class rank or higher. By this September, they need to be at least 14, but not yet 18. And that's true for the whole 9-month period that the council will run. So between September and next May, they need to be between the ages of 14 and not yet 18. And then they've got to have a position of responsibility within their troop. Now, that can mean they either currently hold a position of responsibility or they have held a position of responsibility within their troop. So those are the eligibility requirements. There is no cost to any of our scouts to be on the youth council, but they do have to have access to Zoom. That's how we meet. And we meet once a month for 2 hours on a Sunday afternoon. It's usually the second Sunday of the month. So they meet 9 times, and we ask that every youth does their absolute best to attend all 9. If they have to miss one, we understand that life happens. It happens to adults too. But really, their commitment is to be able to get connected and to prioritize being on those calls every month. I can provide a little more detail if you want about what happens in the application process, but probably the most important thing is just to know that they need a parent's permission and their scoutmaster or assistant scoutmaster's permission to apply. They don't have to be nominated, but they need approval from those 2 individuals in order to apply.
Great, great. Yeah, I would love to get into some of those details a little bit later in the show, Kayleen. For now, I just want to let the folks know basically it's open to older scouts who currently hold a position of responsibility. It's open to anyone who wants to have a say in the Scouts BSA organization. Anybody who has opinions, anybody who feels strongly about this or that, if you have concerns, if you have something that you're thrilled about, this is a way to make a difference. It's a way to leave an impact. Now, you're going to be part of a team. You're not going to be the boss who can go and make all these changes, but you're going to work with other people. It's a great experience. It's a really, really cool. Kayleen, you and I, our mutual friend Gina, I know, worked with the National Youth Council a lot. It meant a lot to her. I know it's a very positive experience. I think that's enough yapping for me and Kayleen, though. I would love to hear from some of these young folks. By the way, Troop 66 is in Cranston, Rhode Island. I was only off by a few thousand miles, so I apologize for that. I was really close, though. Let's start with Nico in the top left corner, looking sharp in your Class A uniform. Nico, tell us a little bit about yourself. You just finished your term on the Scouts BSA Council, National Youth Council. Tell us a little bit about what it was like and what your role was and how it all went.
Sure, no problem. So, hi, I'm Nico from Illinois Blackhawk Area Council, and I just had my Eagle Court of Honor last week, so having lots of fun there. But the National Youth Council was really special to me. I've heard about it before, and I decided to apply actually later in August. I stayed up working on that application, and then it ended up being one of the most awesome experiences that I'll probably talk about forever. Most of the time, some adults and the leaders of Scouting America don't always know in tune what some of the issues youth are facing or some local units. And what we were able to do is we were able to directly tell whether it was the National Key 3, some of our senior vice presidents or NOLC members, directly what was going on with youth and what we were facing. And to me, it's just really special because I know it's commonly talked about, and it's the pinnacle of the saying youth-led, adult-guided, because that's exactly what the National Youth Council was.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Yeah. Kayleen provides the adult guidance for the youth council, but like with all good scout units, right? It's led by the youth. Garfield, watching on YouTube, says the youth council is an excellent opportunity to share how we can improve the Scouts BSA program. Garfield would know, guys. Let's just say, all right, he's going to know. Let's talk real quick with Chloe, who is also outdoors. Chloe, tell the folks where you are.
I'm sitting at Hayward, right at Philmont Scout Ranch right now, serving for faculty on NAIL.
Very, very cool. NAIL. I know what that means. National, what is NAIL?
National Advanced Youth Leadership Experience.
I almost said Adult Youth Leadership Experience. National Advanced Youth Leadership Experience. Very, very cool. Chloe, tell us about your time on the National Youth Council and your biggest takeaways.
My time on the Youth Council was amazing. I learned a lot. I'm from Montana, so I'm not very spaced near a lot of scouts. So seeing all these new places and what they do and learning what I could take for mine was really cool. Addressing bigger issues that I see here and seeing that they happen in other places too was kind of a step back because I didn't realize that happened everywhere else, and it made me feel like that something would be done. And it's a lot of movement, and I feel like we worked really hard to get stuff done and had a lot of really good communication, and at the end achieved our common goal.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Bill says Bill's watching on Facebook. Great job, Chloe. Thank you for representing Troop 1406 from Montana and the Montana Council. Thank you, Bill, for watching. We appreciate that comment. Let's hear from our third youth. It's a Moog. Is that right? Am I saying that right?
Yes, you're
A
saying
Moog. Yes. Sorry. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us today. Tell us a little bit about your experience on the council and how things went for you.
My experience in the council is that it gives, I know, like a lot of places where you do scouting, you might think you're not able to get like a real world experience of how to improve scouting. But here at the National Youth Council, that's what we really do. Every single meeting, it's about youth who share a common passion to just try to be the change makers within our program and to improve the future of scouting. And so that's one really thing I really love about the National Youth Council.
That's great. That's awesome. Thank you very much. Shout out to Fred, who's watching from the Three Fires Council. Thank you, Fred. Encourage everybody to tag a friend in the comments if you think they might know someone who might be interested in applying for the Scouts BSA National Youth Council. Kayleen, let's get back to you and talk a little bit more about the application process. Real quick, if we could, can you talk about when it comes to actually filling out an application? Do they need to set aside a whole afternoon for that? 30 minutes, a few days? Well, how does that work?
Good question. It takes about 90 minutes. You're going to fill in all the basic information, right? Name, rank, and serial number, if you will. But then there are 4 questions that we ask all of the interested scouts to respond to. So things like, if you could change one thing about scouting, what might that be? How do you think that we could better advertise or attract other youth to come into the scouting program, right? So it's an opportunity for the youth to reflect a little bit on some of the ideas that they might come to the youth council with on their mind already. Often we end up pulling some of the topics that we talk about during the 9-month cohort from some of the ideas that we get in the application. So you don't have to write long answers. This isn't like you've got to write, it's not a 1,000-word essay for each question, but we are looking to see, have you thought about scouting? Have you given some reflection to why you want to be on this council and what you would like to talk about? And can you express yourself, in a short paragraph and tell us a little bit about what you might bring to the table? So that the process requires you to start and finish the application all in one setting. So that is an important thing for scouts to know. Unlike other places where you can log in and start it and then log out and finish it later, that's not how this works. So I might encourage you to get the questions, maybe work on all of those offline, and then when you're ready, get online and enter them all at once. It probably will be a better experience for you of making application. So I mentioned you're going to need a permission from your parent or guardian. You're going to need a permission from your scoutmaster. And then we are going to ask all of you for the ability to use your photo and for our media release form, so that like the 3 scouts with us today can be on Troop Talk Live with us. That way we just have that covered, because there are, and Amog and Chloe and Nico can tell you, the scouts on the council do get some opportunities to represent scouting in some public ways. And so we want to make sure that you and your families are comfortable with that right up front out of the gate.
One of the things I did when I was doing my application is I actually copied all the questions into a Google Doc, and then I wrote them all out, went back and changed them, wrote them again, and then I copied and pasted them back into the actual online form, just because for me it was much easier to have spell check on Google Docs.
That's a great piece of advice, Nico. So you can go to the application and get the questions, and then spend some time thinking about them, writing up answers. Am I understanding that right, Nico? Before you actually go back then and hit that submit button, as opposed to just doing it live off the top of your head. Am I understanding that right?
Yep, and in case what I did that also just as insurance, in case something happened with my computer or something crashed, it was easy just to have those back up.
Yeah.
And then it was nice to be able to go back and reflect months and probably years later to see what I was thinking of scouting at that time.
Yeah. Nico, and while we've got you chatting, just as an example, Kayleen said, you get to meet some folks when you do the Scouts BSA National Youth Council. You get to be on shows like Troop Talk Live. And before we went live here, just about 20 minutes ago, Nico asked us, hey, are we going live to Instagram? And, we had a little discussion. Well, we don't normally go live to Instagram because of this, that, and the other. But hey, guess what? It's an interesting idea. He just gave us something to think about. I'm not going to say how much younger Nico is than I am. It's a few years. It's fine. We're not need to get specific into the specifics, but that's fine. So that's just an example of the opportunities. I think it's safe to say, not everybody who applies is going to be accepted to the Scouts BSA Youth Council. So we do encourage everybody to take your time, take the application seriously, just like you would anything else, right? If it's important to you, make sure that comes across in the application. Make sure it doesn't come across as rushed. Shout out to Gwendy, who's watching on Facebook. Nice to see our beautiful Camp Baker BSA represented. I think she's talking to you, Kayleen. Shout out to the Pacific Crest Council Scouting America. Thank you, Gwendy. Appreciate that. Chloe, let's come back to you real quick. I'm just curious. You've served the standard term for the National Youth Council is similar to a school year, around 9 months, September to late May. Do I have that right?
Yep.
Do you anything during those 9 months that kind of stands out in your memory as a favorite thing you got to do, a favorite meeting, a favorite place you got to go, a favorite person you got to talk to? Anything that kind of stands out in your mind?
So one of the meetings they brought back previous cohort youth, and we were able to meet the Gateway Chief, Haley Flores, and I thought that was really cool. Another meeting that we did that I really enjoyed was we talked about merit badges, and we practically made mock merit badges. And I'm not sure where those are going, but that was a ton of fun to look in, like how we would make them and what requirements we'd add into them.
Very, very cool. Yeah. Go ahead,
I was going to
Kayleen.
add, Aaron, that
Yep.
the Scouts actually worked on 3 merit badges: psychology, college preparation, and professional preparedness. And all 3 of those will become official merit badges this fall.
Okay, very, very cool. That's exciting. Yeah. I was just going to say, Kayleen, that probably like any other committee or that you serve on, not every single idea that you have is going to make it into reality, but some of them will. I'm the expert on coming up with ideas that nobody likes, Kayleen. I do that all the time. So I know what that's like. But hey, the great thing is you have the opportunity to share ideas, to talk with other people. And some ideas are bad, and that's fine. But hey, that sounds like those 3 merit badges, like you say, those turned out to work out really, really well. That's cool. Shout out to, let's see, Fred says this is a big issue for commissioners. We don't know how to communicate with today's youth and their parents. Yeah, Fred, I agree. You have an organization, run by people like me. But the bottom line is we need people like Nico and Chloe and Amog making our decisions. Let's talk real quick with you, Amog, now that we have you here. What kind of advice would you give to someone who's going to apply for the council for next year? What do they need to know? What are they getting into? What do you think?
Some advice I would give to someone applying is that they want to help scouting in the future. You want to make a difference. You want to learn something new every day and be able to talk to many people and and that's by raising your voice on matters that you think are important is something that I'd give as advice. And just be yourself and have fun during this council because you're gonna make 45 new friends. You're gonna meet new adults. You might meet the national key 3 like we did. And so just have fun and see where it goes. And I really wanted to see where our merit badges would end up. That was one of my favorite experiences too, Chloe. And now knowing that they're going to be official in fall, that really makes me happy that I was able to make a difference.
That's awesome. Very, very cool. I'm going to ask a couple of more questions to the 3 young folks on with us today. Feel free to just chime in, guys. Whoever wants to answer can answer. I'm sure working with a committee full of, I think you said 45 people, you're probably used to talking over each other. No big deal. Can anyone talk about how participating in the National Youth Council affected your experience in scouting? Anybody have any thoughts on that? Did it change your perspective on the organization, on your troop, anything like that? Anybody?
It brought up a lot of clear ideals that youth are having the same issues all over the world. It's not just something I could see in my home troop or in my home contingent, that we're all seeing the same issues partially, and that a lot of our solutions come from the same place. And bringing that up into a light that there's trying to work on it and there's ways that they're trying to fix it, it makes it a whole lot better and a whole different like view on it, that we're not the only people struggling with this and they're looking for ways to solve that.
Awesome.
It also gave me more clarity about our national organization and the overall just leadership structure of it, and that there's real time feedback that you may suggest something and you're going to feel like, oh my God, they're never listening. Nothing's ever going to get done with this. When there's actually a lot of moving parts in the background that not everyone fully understands, that I may not even fully understand now. And then it also allowed me to get further involved with the Order of the Arrow National Subcommittees and finding a role to further my skills beyond my council and unit.
Awesome. Yeah, yeah. Nico, I've been here for like 20 years. I still don't understand all of it. But yeah, it's very, very cool. Kayleen, correct me if I'm wrong, but one thing that Chloe said that kind of sticks out is there seems to be a lot of geographic diversity on the council. You've got scouts from all over the country. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It
And
seems
that
important,
is,
right?
yeah, it's not random.
Right. Yeah.
One of the goals, when my good friend and scouting colleague Dwayne Fontenette helped
Mhm.
to, come up with the youth council concept, is that we were absolutely insistent that it would be as diverse as we could make it, and think of that in every possible description of diverse that you can,
Right.
geographically, age, experience, obviously gender, ethnicity. When we get, this last cycle, we had about 125 applications for about 40 spots.
Yep.
There are 7 of us on the committee. We all read a selection, we all read about 30 of the applications. We score them on a rubric so that they're all blind. It's a blind read. We all score them exactly the same. We look at who rises to the top. And then once we have that top, say 50 or so youth, we look at those demographics and we make sure, for example, if we had just taken like the top this last cohort, I think we would have had like 6 kids from Texas.
Hmm.
We said out of only 40 spots, Texas can't have 6.
Hmm.
So,
Yep.
that's when we made some adjustments to make sure. I mean, let's be honest, all the scouts that are applying are highly intelligent and qualified. So that's where we made a little bit of adjustment just to make sure that we were as broadly representing the country as possible. And you can ask these 3, but I think they would tell you getting to meet and hang out and spend time with each other and getting to know scouts in other states around the country was particularly cool for them. And I think a part of the experience that we're really trying to deliver when a scout joins the council.
I think it was also more than just the country. I think it was some of our international councils also
That's
that were
right.
represented.
That's right.
Awesome.
We
Yeah.
had a
Very,
we had
very
a scout from the Far East Council on the last cohort.
Very, very cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The scouting experience can be different depending on where you live, what kind of community, if you're in a big city or a small town, whether you're rural or urban. So I love the fact that we try to hear from kids from all different backgrounds. Kids today, I don't have to tell the 3 of you this. Kids today are busy. I know you guys have a lot of stuff going on. We're not only scouts, you're in school, you have other extracurricular activities. I feel like scouts are always the smart kids too. So there's no telling what kind of clubs you might be involved with, academic clubs, band, whatever it might be. By the way, shout out, I was a band geek, so shout out to any band geeks on the call. But who can tell me about the time commitment? I know it's only you meet one time a month virtually, so that seems doable. But you're obviously expected to think about it and put in a little more time than that. Who can comment on how much time it took and how did you balance with your schedule? Was it tough? Was it easy? Anybody who wants to chime in?
I I can go
Yeah,
if
sure,
it's fine.
absolutely.
Yeah, you're absolutely right with the monthly virtual meetings. I believe it's like the second or first Sunday. Um, and occasionally you'll be able to, in those sessions, you work in groups, in between sessions. And after, if you're really interested, you'll actually have a form of communication. We all have a group meet where we discussed, and that's actually how we worked on our merit badges, because it can't take one singular meeting to, get one topic done. And if someone's really interested, they can go to that form of communication and talk more about it.
Okay.
And there's also in-person events like right here. I wouldn't consider this in person, but they're
Kind of.
events. Yeah,
Yep.
there are events where you can show what the National Youth Council does. So it really depends on your own time, but I'd say around 4 hours a month is usually where it is for
Okay.
me. Um, and I don't know about the others, but they can tell you more about
Yeah.
their schedule.
Yeah. I would let Nico, Chloe, any thoughts on the time commitment and how you guys managed to work it into your schedules?
I totally agree with Moog on that one. A lot of our time is spent in the meetings, but some topics we do outside of meetings, such as the merit badges. But when we worked together, it took a lot less time and collaborated our ideas, and it went very smoothly, I'd say. So it didn't take us much time to learn and to move along and work together with those. I'd say around 4 to 5 hours a month is pretty on the point for me too.
Excellent. Nico?
Yeah, I totally agree with everything said. There is obviously, I wouldn't say homework because like you're getting to change the future of scouting, so I don't really think that's homework. But there is some work outside. But when you're applying to the youth council, you're obviously passionate about it. So then, if there's an opportunity to do some work outside of the youth council, I think everyone jumped on it. And then some other youth council members got actually to go to a national executive board meeting and represent our youth council and the youth of Scouting America in the Scouts BSA program to our national executive board and offer about, I think it was an hour of thoughts and commentary and answering questions about what some issues are directly facing youth. I'm sure Ms. Kayleen can talk more about that also.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And we just have a few more minutes left with our guest here. We're talking about the Scouts BSA National Youth Council. Kayleen, we're saying kind of goodbye to this current cohort. We're taking applications for the next cohort. Everybody go to the link right there, bookmark that link, send it to all your friends, send it to anybody who thinks they might be interested in applying. Kayleen, before we let you go, any thoughts on this group that you're saying goodbye to? As Nico said, I know you've got to meet with the National Executive Board. That's really cool. Is it hard for you to say goodbye to these good young folks?
Always, because these are all my kids now, right? Or I'm theirs, however that works. But it is every cohort's been so great. I mean, I enjoy meeting scouts from all around the country as much as they do. What I'm loving is that the council is getting really well known. I now have other program areas of scouting reaching out to me and asking me if they can come on to one of our meetings and get feedback from our youth. So that to me is a screaming sign of success. These youth, along with others, have helped to change our scout handbook. They've helped to change uniforming. They have changed scout positions of responsibility. They're working on these new merit badges that'll be in the test lab this fall. I mean, there are some very tangible ways that they're making a difference. They're also learning, like we all have to accept as adults. We can't just make things happen in scouting on a dime. So sometimes the feedback that a cohort gave 2 years ago, it may feel like nothing happened with that, but we are in fact still using that feedback. So I kind of love that they get in there and figure out sometimes scouting's a little bit more of an aircraft carrier than a speedboat, but that's because we're a huge organization and it takes us a while to make change. So all of that is so powerful.
And hey,
And the chance to meet with the NEB doesn't usually happen for scouters from everyday communities. So that's huge, and it had as much impact on our national board as it had on the scouts that went to the meeting.
and hey, welcome to the real world, right? I mean, that's the kind of thing that happens. So that's a great experience. My final question for you, Kayleen, as we look forward to this next cohort, we hope that you get tons and tons of great applications. Only 40 or so will be chosen. Is it too early to say? Do you know yet what kind of issues you'll be facing over the next 9 or 10 months or so? Can you talk about that at all?
Yeah, a little bit. The Youth Council lives in the Scouts BSA committee. And the Scouts BSA committee, there's about 15 different subject matter areas within Scouts BSA that we're managing. So any of my colleagues on the committee might bring to the youth something that they're working on. For example, we're working on a complete Scout handbook revision. Guarantee you there will be input from youth in how we make that revision. I'll give you one that came up that made me laugh because it's so obvious. How come you guys put forms in these handbooks that we have to write on? Why don't you put QR codes in there? Duh. So that would be a really good example of youth feedback. Right. So that kind of thing is happening. We're going to continue to bring in leaders from other program areas. A lot of these youth are in the OA, and so we're talking more about how to collaborate between the OA and the Youth Council as we move forward. We're going to continue to give them the opportunity to be in the driver's seat for as much of the policy and program decisions as we can, because that's really the point of the council. And I thank all three of you for your service on the cohort and for your time today.
I would like to thank all three of you for your time today as well. I hope that when you're done, you'll say that one of your highlights of being on the Scouts BSA National Youth Council was that one time you got to be on Troop Talk Live. We really do appreciate you guys taking the time today. Kayleen, the applications are open now. Is there a deadline that we need to tell folks about?
August 15th. We need those applications in by August 15th for decisions by probably mid-September.
Got it. So get those in by August 15th. You'll hear a month or so later. So you got 4 or 5 weeks here to get that done, folks. We got some folks in the comments. It is inspiring to see youth from across the nation come together. Agreed. Wishing all the success to the outgoing cohort going forward. Agreed. Special shout out to all the members of the Scouts BSA National Youth Council who served, and especially the three of you guys and gal who joined us today. Thanks for coming on today. We appreciate it.
No. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Kayleen,
thank you.
Thank you, Kayleen. Always good to see you. Get back to camp. Chloe, you get back to your camp. I love the fact that you guys are coming to us from the outdoors. That's great. Everybody else, thank you so much for watching today. Apply for the Scouts BSA National Youth Council. It's a great opportunity. Thank you all for watching. We appreciate it. Again, thanks to our guests. See everybody later. Bye, guys. Thank you all.
Bye, guys.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.